Hello, my dear students. Welcome back to the physics class. In today's class, we are going to continue with our concepts, that is light, reflection and refraction. So today we are going to concentrate mainly on refraction through the glass slab, loss of refraction, refractive index, then the ray diagrams for the lenses, lens formula and power of lenses. So now let us know about refraction. Refraction is nothing but, as I've explained in the previous class, the change in the direction of the light wherever it passes from one transparent medium to the other. What is the cause of the refraction? So the cause of the refraction is the change in the speed of the light wherever it changes the transparent mediums. That is the we as we have known that speed of light in vacuum and air is same. That is how much? 3 into 10 the power 8 meter per second. But the speed of the light changes with the some other transparent mediums like water, glass, okay, kerosene, etc. So depending on the change in the speed of light, even the direction of the light also changes. So that phenomenon we call it as refraction of light. If I consider the two mediums, say M1 and M2, wherever the light ray incident in this direction, according to the rectilinear property, it has to come straight, isn't it? But so the light ray is not coming straight, but it is bending because of the refraction of light. So let us know about some of the examples of the refraction of light. The first example is the bottom of the swimming pool appears higher. So some of you might have experienced this. But the second example, most of you can experience it. Even if not, you can do it at home. So what you need to do? You need to take a pencil and slantly immerse it on a container having a water. See that only half part of the pencil should be in water, other half should be in air. That is partial immersing. When you partially immerse the pencil in water, it appears to be bent when you observe in this position. Now, it is because of the refraction of light with the interface of air and water. The third example is lemon placed in glass tumbler appears to be bigger in size. And the fourth example is the letters of a book appears to be raised when it is seen through the glass slab. So the from second to the fourth example, you can do it at home, children. So now let us see about the refraction through the glass slab. I have considered the glass slab, that is PQRS, and here I have drawn the two normals. This normal is with respect to the PQ, that is a perpendicular line with respect to the side PQ. Similarly, this normal is a perpendicular drawn to the side SR. Remember, PQRS is a glass slab, therefore whatever the interface that is going to happen within this PQRS is a glass medium, and outside this PQRS is a air medium. Now if I consider a ray of light that is incidenting in this direction, making an angle of incidence, and then instead of going straight, because at this point it experiences the difference in the transparent medium, that is here at this point the change in the speed of the light takes place. For that reason, the light ray gets refracted in this direction, making an angle of refraction R. Then as this light ray travels straight, because there was no refraction here, and then it comes to this point, again it experiences the change in the transparent medium, that is glass to air. So again the light ray gets refracted, see, and it emerges making an refracted angle R2. Now this is the actual refraction that is taking place through the glass slab, and here twice the refraction takes place, first when it enters from air to glass and second from glass to air. If suppose the light ray is not refracted and it is following the rectilinear property of light, then the light ray would have been straight like this, isn't it? But actually the emergent ray is this one. Therefore, what is the difference between this? So this we will indicate it with the letter X. Okay. So this X is nothing but the lateral displacement. Okay. This lateral displacement depends on the refractive index of the glass slab. Okay, the glass slab can be made of different types of the glasses like the Pyrex glass, crown glass, etc. So, depending on the refractive index, the thickness changes. And then the second point is the thickness of the glass slab. Thickness of the glass slab means as the thickness increases, as the value of the thickness of the PQRS increases, then the lateral displacement also increases. If the thickness of the glass slab decreases, then the lateral displacement also decreases. So now let us know about the loss of refraction, children. As you have observed in the previous example, here if you observe, angle of incidence and angle of refraction are not equal even when we travel from air to glass or from glass to air. So you would have observed that there is some difference where it is not following like angle of incidence is equal to angle of refraction. Then what might be the reason? Here are the laws of refraction. Don't confuse it with the reflection laws. Okay. The first law says the incident ray, refracted ray and the normal drawn at the interface of the true transparent medium at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. It is somewhat similar to the first law of the reflection also. So according to this, so the incident ray, then the refracted ray and also the normal, where you are drawing the normal at the interface of the true transparent medium, then all these three are going to lie on the same plane. The second law is also known as the Snell's law. It says that the ratio of the sine of the angle of incidence to the sine of the angle of refraction is constant for a light of given color and for a given pair of medium. That is, sin I by sin R is equal to constant. So already you are aware of the trigonometric ratios, as children. In that, the sine of the angle of incidence to the sine of the angle of refraction is constant. Suppose I have taken example. So here I have drawn a normal. This is the angle of incidence, making an angle of incidence I. Then after refraction, it is refracted through the angle of refraction R. Now, if suppose you consider this ratio, that is sin I by sin R, is giving some constant. Now, as I am increasing the angle of incidence here, that is, as I increasing angle of incidence, then according to this angle of incidence, angle of refraction also changes. So even if you take this difference, so uh, between the second case, sin I by sin R is same as that of the ratio with the first case. That means, so if for a given color and for a given pair of medium, sin I by sin R is going to be a constant. So that is known as Snell's law, which is very very important. That is, ratio of sine of the angle of incidence to the sine of the angle of refraction is constant for a light of given color and for a pair of medium. Okay, if you don't change the given pair of medium and for the same color of the light, then sin I by sin R is going to be a constant. Now let us understand about the refractive index, children. Refractive index is nothing but the ratio of the speed of light in given pair of medium. If I consider two medium, so because of the refraction we need two transparent medium, then the refractive index can be expressed as it is the velocity of light in the first medium and divided by the velocity of light in the second medium. If I consider, so there are two different types we are considering here, that is N21, that is V1 by V2. It is the refractive index of the second medium with respect to the first medium, whereas here it is N12. There is a slight change, children, here N12. Here it is the refractive index of the first medium with respect to the second medium. So here it is refractive index with respect to the second medium with respect to first medium, that is velocity of V1 by V2, and here it is refractive index of the first medium with respect to the second medium, that is it should be N12. Okay. Now, so after referring to the refractive index, we need to also know about the absolute refractive index. Absolute in the sense we are comparing the refractive index of a certain medium with respect to air and volume. So that is N is equal to C by V. So where C is the constant, that is the speed of light in air or vacuum, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and v is the velocity of light in a given medium, whatever the medium we are considering. It might be water, it might be glass, etc. So one of the value of the refractive index has been given, children. So that value we are considering is as the refractive index of the diamond is the highest out of all the mediums we are considering. So how much is it? 2.42. Even in the exercise you have been given, in the textbook you have been given with the tabular column referring different refractive index of different mediums. You can refer that also. So now let us understand one more concept, that is optically denser medium, optically rarer medium. So optically denser in the sense the medium which has got higher value of the refractive index, so that we are referring it as a optically denser medium, and the one which is having the lower value of the refractive index, that we are referring it as a optically rarer medium. If I consider the two mediums, that is medium 1 and medium 2, so if I consider the medium 1 is having the lower value of the refractive index, then we call that as a rarer medium, and medium 2 is having the higher value of the refractive index, and we call it as a denser medium. And wherever the light ray is traveling from rarer medium to denser medium, so just observe the light ray as it gets incident at the point of incidence, and then at the point where the normal is getting interface with the two mediums, it gets refracted. So in this refraction you might have observed that the after refraction the light ray is bent towards the normal, so that we can refer it as wherever the light ray travels from rarer to denser medium, the refracted ray is bending towards the normal. If suppose we consider a denser medium to that of the rarer medium, if suppose the light travels from denser to rarer, then the light ray gets refracted. In such a case it is moving away from the normal. Here you have observed the two cases. When do we say that the optically denser and optically rarer medium? Wherever the medium is having higher value of refractive index, it is called optically denser. Lower value of refractive index, it is called as a optically rarer medium. Wherever the light travels from rarer to denser, the refracted ray is bent towards the normal, and wherever the light ray travels from denser to rarer, the light ray gets refracted away from the normal. So these are the two concepts you should remember, children. Now let us know about the spherical lenses. So like you have learnt about the mirrors, mirror is having only one side of the refractive part in the lenses, and in today's class we are referring about the like a biconvex and biconcave lens. That means on both the sides the refraction takes place. Okay, convex lens in the sense it is thinner from the corners and thicker at the center, and it is also called as the converging lens. After refraction it is going to converge all the light rays at one point, therefore it is called as a converging lens. If you observe the convex lens here, you can observe that they are thin at the corners and it is thicker at the center. And coming to the concave lens, that is biconcave lens, it is thicker at the corners, just observe corners, and thinner at the center, and it is called as a diverging lens because after refraction it is going to diverge the light rays so into different like angles, so that's why it is called as a diverging lens. Now let us know about the ray diagrams for the convex and concave lenses. If you just observe the convex and the concave lenses, here we have the bifocal lenses. Okay, since it has got two refracting surfaces, so to the left as well as to the right we have F and C. If you consider this as the, if you consider this point as the refractive end, then towards the right side you have the center of curvature C2 and F2, that is principal focus. And if you consider this as the refracting part, then towards the left you have F1 and C1. So similarly for concave also, with respect to the two sides you are having the center of curvature and the principal focus. Usually we have learnt the relation, that is radius of curvature is twice of the focal length. Therefore even we can write this C2 as 2f2 and C1 as 2f1, even with respect to convex as well as in concave lenses. So now let us know about the rules for the image formation by convex lens. The first rule says a ray of light parallel to the principal axis of a convex lens always pass focus of the other side of the lens. If I consider a ray of light which is parallel to the principal axis, then remember it always pass through the principal focus of the other side of the lens. So therefore this is the first rule. And coming to the second rule, if suppose a ray of light is passing through the principal focus of one side of the focus, then the emergent ray after refraction will be parallel to the other side, okay, of the principal axis. This is the second rule. Coming to the third rule, a ray of light passing through the optic center will pass without any deviation. So as the ray of light passes with the optic center, it comes out without any deviation in the same direction. So this is the third rule, children. So a light ray passes through the optic center, then in the same direction the refraction also takes place. So now let us know about the image formation by convex lenses. The first case is when the object is at infinity. Now let us know about, so wherever the object is kept at infinity and the light rays are coming from at infinite point, then the light rays will converge at a point, say the image is formed at f2. And what about the nature of the image, children? The image is a real image and it is inverted image. What about the size of the image? It is point size. So remember the laws, that is the rules for the convex lens. As the light ray is parallel to the principal axis, then the light ray has to converge at the principal focus of the other side of the like a convex lens. Therefore all the light rays are converging at f2, and the nature of the images are position is at f2, nature will be the real and inverted, and the size of the image is a point size. This is the first case. Like this we are going to study the rest of the other 5 cases also. When the object is kept beyond c1, then here also in the rest of the cases we are considering the 2 points. You have to keep it at mind. One of the ray has to pass parallel to the principal axis. The other ray should be passing through the optic center O. Okay. Now I am just taking one of the ray parallel to the principal axis. As it is parallel to the principal axis, now the light ray has to converge, or it has to come passing through the point F2. And the other ray has to be the optic center, so therefore it has to straight come without the reflection, because the refraction as well as the incident ray will be in the same point. So now both are meeting at this point where we are finding the image formation, that is the image is formed between f2 and c2, and the nature of the image will be real and inverted. What about the size of the image? The size of the image is diminished. Okay, the size of the image is diminished. This is the second case where the object is beyond c1. Therefore where do you find the image formation? The image is formed between f2 and c2, and the image formed is real and it is inverted, and the size is diminished. Now this third case is the object is placed at c1. So now as I have said, 2 points you have to keep in mind. A ray should be parallel to the principal axis where it has to come after refraction through f2, and the other line should be passing through the optic center without any deviation. So now as I have considered the 2 points, both are meeting at the point c2. Therefore the image is formed at c2, and the nature of the image is real and inverted, and the size of the image is the same size as that of the object. Therefore, if I consider the object at C1, the image will be formed at C2. Now, the fourth case is when the object is between F1 and C1. Now, here also we are considering the 2 points, that is one of the rays should be parallel to the principal axis. Now it has to pass through F2, and then again we are extending that line. Now again the second line will be passing through the optic center. Both are meeting at this point. That is, the image is formed beyond C2. What about the nature of the image? The nature of the image is real and inverted, and the size of the image is enlarged. When you compare the size of the image with that of the object, then you can observe that the image is enlarged here. Now the fifth case we are considering here is when the object is at F1. When the object is at F1, here also we are considering a line which is parallel to the principal axis. It has to come passing through F2, and the other line is passing through the optic center. So when you just extend those two lines after refraction, you can observe that there is no image formation here. That means the two lines are not meeting. We will consider they are going to meet at infinity. Therefore the image is at infinity. And what about the nature of the image? The nature of the image is real and inverted. What about the size of the image? It is highly enlarged. So therefore this is the case where we are thinking that somewhere the image is formed, okay, and it is real and inverted, like the case we have learnt in the mirrors also, no children, like sun was somewhere infinite distance from us, but still we are finding we are able to get that sun on a piece of paper when you use a concave mirror. Similarly here also we are considering the same case. The image is formed but at infinity, and what about the nature of the image? It is real and inverted. And now let us consider the sixth case when the object is between F1 and O. O is nothing but the optic center. When you take the object is between F1 and O, then here also I am considering a line which is parallel to the principal axis. So here a line is parallel to the principal axis, therefore it has to pass through F2, and another line should be with the optic center O. Now both are, when you extend these two lines, both are not meeting, isn't it? So what we will do, through the imaginary lines we will make them to meet. So if I extend this line so that it will come to this point, similarly if I extend the other line which is passing through the optic center, now both are meeting at a point. That the point, it is nothing but the image formation. In this image formation we can observe that the image formed is a erect image, and image is formed because of the imaginary lines which are drawn. So the image is not formed as such, the two lines through light rays after refraction they are meeting, but we are drawing an imaginary line so that we are finding the image formation. Therefore it is a virtual image and it is an erect image. What about the position of the image? The image is formed on the same side of the lens. What about the size of the image? The image is highly enlarged when compared to that of the object. So these are the 6 cases, children, we are considering for the convex lens. You should learn about all these 6 ray diagrams or the image formation. So with respect to the convex lens, they will be giving the object position. According to the position, you need to draw the ray diagram, and you need to discuss about the position, nature and size of the images. So now let us know about the rules for the image formation by concave lens. There are 2 rules, children, here also. A ray of light parallel to the principal axis appear to diverge from the focus located on the same side of the lens. If I consider a ray of light parallel to the principal axis, now when I extend that, the light ray is diverged after it passes through the concave lens. It appears to be diverged so that it is passing through the principal focus F1. If I observe the position of the line after refraction from this point of view, if I consider my eyesight will be at this position, then I can see that the light ray is coming from the principal focus F1. This is the first rule. And the second rule says a ray of light appears to meet the focus will emerge parallel to the principal axis. If I consider a ray of light which is passing, so that it is coming from f2 position. If I consider this light ray is being incident on the concave lens, then it has to pass through parallel to the principal axis. This is the second rule. And the third rule says wherever a light ray is passing through the optic center, without any deviation it will pass through, because the after reflection also the light ray will fall in the same line. Okay, so this is the third rule. Now let us see about the image formation with respect to the concave lens. The first case is when the object is at infinity, then light rays are coming from infinite distance. Then what is going to happen here? So as such, the lens is a concave lens, the light rays get diverged. So here the light rays are diverged. So when the light rays are coming in contact with the concave lens, so as such it is coming from the point, okay, that is principal focus. As such, when you just observe these two light rays after refraction, there is no image formation. If you extend these two lines also, what you are going to get? You are going to increase the distance between among them. So therefore, what we will do? We will extend that lines, these two lines, through an imaginary line, so that they are going to meet at a point. Where they are meeting, children? They are meeting at f1. So they are meeting at f1. And what about the nature of the image? The nature of the image is virtual, because we are making them to meet with an imaginary line. And what about the is it erect or inverted? Yes, it is erect, and size will be point size. This is the first case. Now let us see the last case of the image formation by the concave lens. So here you have to keep the object between the infinity and the optic center, wherever. If I consider this is the optic center, from infinite to optic center you can keep the object anywhere. So now here also you need to consider two cases. One light ray has to be parallel to the principal axis, and the other light ray should be passing through the optic center. When it is parallel to the principal axis, now the light ray has to be diverged in such a way that it is coming from f1. Okay, now the optic center light ray has to be emerged without any deviation. Now here also I am not finding any of the image formation. So what we need to do? We need to extend this line through an imaginary line, so that I can find the image formation on the same side of the concave lens where the object was placed. Now I am extending that. Just observe, children, the image is formed here, isn't it? So the image is formed, which is between F1 and O. The image is formed between F1 and O. What about the nature? It is virtual, because I have drawn through the imaginary lines, and it is erect. What about the size of the image? The size of the image is diminished. So this is the nature of the image, about the position as well as size. Okay, so these are the two cases, children, you are going to refer with respect to concave lens. Now let us know about the lens formula. Like mirror formula, here also we have lens formula. So that is 1 over V minus 1 over U is equal to 1 over F. What is the difference between the lens formula and the mirror formula? Only the difference here is the negative sign, that is minus sign. Here it is going to be plus for the mirror formula, isn't it? So here also V is referring to the image distance, and U for the object distance, F is the focal length. So image distance, in the sense it is the distance of the image from the optic center. It is the distance of the object from the optic center. It is the distance of the distance between the principal focus and the optic center is the focal length. Okay. Now let us know about the magnification. It is the ratio of the height of the image to the height of the object. So the magnification is somewhat the same as that of the mirror also. That is m is equal to h dash by h, and even I can write m is equal to v by u. That is m is magnification is equal to image distance by object distance, or the height of the image by height of the object. So if I write together, then I can write m is equal to v by u, that is equal to h dash by h. Okay, you can use this magnification formula to know whether the image formed is a diminished image, highly enlarged, or large, or point size. Depending on the magnification, we can say the size of the image formed compared to that of the object. So you need all these three formulas to solve numerical problems, children. So now at last the concept is power of lens. Power of lens is nothing but it is a reciprocal of the focal length. So with on the concept of solving a numerical problem, we define the power of lens as a reciprocal of the focal length in meters. So that is power is equal to 1 divided by focal length, that is equal to 1 over f. The SI unit of power is diopter, even it is represented with the letter capital D. So this concludes the chapter, children. So today we have learnt about the refraction, then the refraction, some examples for the refraction of light, and also we have seen the refraction of the glass slab, and then we have seen the two conditions, that is optically denser and optically rarer media. Based on that, we have learned about the two types of the biconvex lens as well as a biconcave lens and their rules for the image formation. And also we have seen the different cases of the image formation, like 6 cases we have studied in the convex lens and 2 cases in the concave lens. And also, so we have studied about the lens formula, then the magnification of the lenses, then the power of lenses. I hope you have understood today's class, children. So we are going to meet again with the same concept, that is light reflection and refraction with the numerical problems. Until then, take care and have a nice day. And so far we have done completed all the concepts in this chapter. What you need to do, you need to practice the ray diagrams of both mirrors and the lenses, because they are very important from the point of your exam, children. So once again, so have a nice day and practice the concepts daily.